We like to call it the Supernatural Hour. And now, our hosts.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back here with the Supernatural Hour. We'll move on into our topic, being that it's a new year and we've had a lot of holidays recently. We want to kind of jump into where some of these holidays came from and kind of like what started like modern religion as it is today. So we're going to talk about paganism and discuss about what that actually is. Deanne, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So, we decided on a topic. So I'll get you learned up. So I sat down and I thought, okay, I know what I think paganism is. And I knew that what the world says is not really what it is, because it gets kind of a bad rap. People say, oh, you're a pagan. And what most people mean by that is, you're evil.
You're a devil worshiper.
You're a devil worshiper. And that's not what it is. If you get looking into it, it's very nature-based and very, I don't want to say holistic, but very nature-based and very loving. And I actually wrote down a couple things. It's broadly connoted as the religion of the peasantry. And during and after the Middle Ages, it was always applied, to some unfamiliar religion, because of their beliefs in the false gods. Paganism, they basically believe in many gods. They're not limited to one. And so, if you think about it, people say, oh, you're pagan, like it's a bad thing. But then you trot off to school and take your mythology class with Greek and Roman gods, and you're fine with that.
And they were pagans.
And Romans are pagans.
Technically, the term pagan didn't come about until after Christianity was established in Europe.
Right.
It was, basically, it means, and the literal definition of pagan is a person holding religious beliefs other than those of the main world religions. When they were referring to people as pagans back then, it simply meant, and I guess in Latin it was paganus, if I'm reading that correctly. And it literally just meant country dweller. So, then when the term first came about, it wasn't really anything derogatory. It was just basically someone that didn't believe in Christianity.
Yeah, right. And the term has evolved into meaning not one of the major Judeo-Christian religions or Muslim religions, coming from the Abrahamic links, where you could even consider some of the Buddhist, some of the Hindu, some of those are oftentimes considered also as pagan religions.
Right. And some of the things that I thought was interesting is, I sat down and I knew that pagans weren't evil, but I didn't know a whole lot about it. And so as I sat down and was looking at it, with my religion being very dogmatic and, here's the rules and here's the steps, I kept looking for rules and steps. And I was getting a little frustrated because I thought, how come I can't find a site that says if you're pagan, you do this, 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 and this? But what I discovered is that because they're not dogmatic, if you're pagan, you can really kind of pursue your own vision, how you see it. What's personal to you, what speaks to you. They see the earth as sacred. There's a few things that in general most of them think, but it's not so much a public religion as a domestic, personal religion. And not all of the gods that pagans worship are necessarily humanoid, for lack of a better word, superhuman gods. A lot of them can be a collective or elemental, which I found interesting.
To be honest with you, paganism isn't necessarily a religion. In my opinion, it's more of a way of life.
Exactly.
There's not really a headquarters. You got the LDS headquarters here in Utah. You've got the Catholic headquarters in the Vatican. There's different headquarters for the different religions. And with paganism, it's just there really isn't one. It's just the whole thing about it is being one with nature, one with yourself, one with the universe, and basically just being a good person. There are different forms of paganism. Wicca, which came about in I think like the 50s, but is one of the mainstream forms of paganism. There's also the Druids that are over in Europe, is another form of paganism. It's more of a way of life and more a way of being one with yourself and nature.
Right. Now, apparently there is, and I didn't read very much about this, but there is a Pagan Federation. And in the Pagan Federation, they recognize the rich diversity of all the traditions of all the different, sects. And like Tim said, some of the major ones, and I wrote these down because I knew I would never remember them, so pardon some paper rustling. but there was, I don't know where I wrote it down, but there's Wiccans, there it is, Druids, the Celtic religions, the Nordic religions all have multi-gods. Egyptians are pagans, Voodoo, the Greeks, the Romans, I already said that, but any culture, any religion that has kind of that multi-god, Hindu.
Yeah, and
sort of a
basically
thing.
non-Abrahamic
Exactly.
religions.
And that didn't dawn on me, that the Greeks, Romans, and Egyptians, I mean, I knew they were multi-gods, but since I didn't know really a definition of pagan, I thought, never knew.
See, that's kind of the same way I was, because I always enjoyed studying Greek and Roman mythology, but I've never made that connection that those were actually like pagan religions. Most of the religions or the mythologies from back then are, like you said, going to be polytheistic as far as how they believe in different gods or deities. And their deities, it was funny because they would actually change depending on the region. Like you could have, this part of Scotland would believe in one deity, or in this part would believe in another one. It was basically they believed in kind of what they needed at the time, like what was close by. Like if they lived near the sea, like the Greeks, for example, they live near the sea, they're going to worship Poseidon. Where if they live more in the forest, it might be like Artemis or someone like that. It was all dependent on where they lived at the time, and this was all before like the written language was actually a thing. So a lot of these pagan religions and whatnot, it's just stories that have been passed down, because back then there was no way to write down and keep track of kind of how the religion worked, and that's kind of the nice thing is like that's what kind of helped make it different between the different areas in certain regions.
Right. And a lot of times, it's just passed down from father to son. Things are going to change a little bit as the son might say, well, Dad said this, but I feel, that maybe this plus, this experience that I had, and it changes, but that's fine with pagans because it's such a personal experience that it's okay. There's not a set thing that they have to follow, and so if it needs to change or tweak per person, it can do that.
So how did pagans get such a bad rap?
That's a very good question.
Yes, it is.
How did they get a bad rap?
A lot of it came about with the expansion of Christianity and the church. And as they moved into areas and conquered people, what do you do to espouse your beliefs? You displace other people's beliefs. You take other people's beliefs. Sometimes you even incorporate some of other people's celebrations and things into your beliefs so that those people
Alrighty.
will more readily accept your beliefs.
And that's how you get Christmas.
Exactly, and that's one of the things that I kind of looked at. After kind of researching what basic paganism was, then I thought, well, let's go into the holidays because I have friends. I shouldn't say friends. I have one friend that.
You have one friend?
I have one friend.
Aww.
I need more friends.
Brandy will be your friend.
Will you be my friend, Brandy?
That was a hard no.
She's thinking about it.
She's eating candy.
She's eating Skittles.
I should say I have one acquaintance. I have one acquaintance that thinks that Halloween is evil, and she doesn't let her kids go trick-or-treating, and they go somewhere else as a family, public and indoors, that doesn't do a Halloween sort of thing to get away from it. And I just thought, how sad that your kids can't put on princess dresses and get candy from the neighbors, because that's all we do.
Is she a Jehovah's Witness?
No.
Oh, okay.
So I got looking at the pagan holidays, and there's Halloween, there's the winter solstice, which is Christmas, there's Candlemas, which is Valentine's Day, there's the spring equinox, which is Easter, there's Beltane, if I'm saying that right, it's May Day, there's the summer solstice, there's harvest, which is in the fall.
Hey, Thanksgiving?
I know, weird, right? There's an autumn equinox. And then I thought, okay, well, that's cool. There's a few more in there that I didn't realize. But then you look at the days of the week, and you get these people, oh, you're so pagan. Well, you know what, folks? Days of the week, they're pagan. Monday is Moon's Day. Tuesday is Tyr's Day. These are gods. I think they're Norse gods. Wednesday is Odin's Day. Thursday is Thor's Day, and how many people love Thor? Guess what? He's pagan.
See, I've known that since I was a little kid. That's like, I've always loved Thor. He's been my favorite of the Norse gods.
Yeah. Friday is Freya's Day, and Freya is the god of love and wisdom, love and something.
Wife of Odin.
who Christianity made into a witch
Yep.
and changed the story about her to drive people away from their pagan beliefs into Christian beliefs. And Freya, like you say, is the god of beauty and love and has been demonized to become kind of the wicked witch.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong here. Isn't Freya sort of similar to the Greeks' god Gaia, who was basically essentially Mother Earth?
I think so. See, the next thing I was going to say was Saturday is Saturn's day, but it kind of depends on which mythology you follow. It could be Jupiter's day or Zeus's day. And then Sunday is Sun's day, the day of the sun. So, yeah, you can put in, if you're, say, my personal favorite, I love Greek mythology. So I would put in the Greek's name. So for, instead of Freya, I think the Greek equivalent would be Aphrodite. I think she's beauty and love.
Yeah, she is.
So, I could call Thursday. I'm going to start calling Friday Aphrodite Day.
Okay.
So if I tell you that it's going to happen on Aphrodite Day.
Valentine's might actually happen on a Friday this year. I don't remember. I'll have to look it up.
Did you say Afro Friday or Aphrodite?
Aphrodite Day.
I thought you said Afro Friday.
I might have.
Aphrodite. That works too.
It's hard. I may have stumbled over my words. Don't make fun of me.
We're not. That's actually catchy. It's like Dion. Deanne and Don. So you guys are one, so it's Dion. So you got Afro Friday.
After Friday.
I'm going to start calling it Thor's Day then.
Okay.
No more Thursday. Hey, I'll see you next Thursday.
All right. Look how cool we are. We could start a new thing in 2020.
We could.
Moon's Day. We're going to start using this.
We're going to be trendsetters. No?
I like that.
Okay.
I'm still going with Aphrodite. I can't even say it now. Aphrodite Day.
So one thing I noticed, we recently had New Year, obviously. So many people were like, oh my gosh, way to go. The Earth successfully rotated around the sun. Let's celebrate.
It's only been doing it for how many millions of years?
Right? So, of course, Americans and everybody around the world, well, not everybody, but a lot of cultures will find a reason to get silly drunk and celebrate. And, it's fun, but that's not how New Year's originally came about. New Year's actually wasn't even in January. It was in April. It was April 1st. And that's how April Fool's Day came about, because you had those old the people that still practice their pagan ways, going off of the winter solstice and the spring
Equinox.
The equinox. They went off of the seasons, so their New Year started when spring came about, and they were able to replant their crops
And do their fertility rites.
Exactly. So then when the Christians came about, and they're like, well, no, we're going to change it to January 1st, because that makes sense to us for some reason. I don't know. I didn't actually research that, but I know it was changed. And the people that still practiced their pagan ways on April 1st, they were called April Fools, because they're like, well, that's not the New Year anymore. It's now in January. You guys are foolish for celebrating this.
That is awesome. I never knew that.
Well, now you know. And knowing half the battle.
I always kind of called it April Fool's Day was kind of my day, because I have a hard time sometimes.
Just sometimes?
Yes, just
Okay.
sometimes. I fool you the rest of the time.
But it's like other holidays, like Halloween. We talked about this on our Halloween show. That was the fall, or I don't remember the name.
It is Samhain.
Samhain.
Samhain. I don't know if that's how you that's how I say it.
Samhain.
Samhain.
That's what they would light their big bonfires, because they were doing their kind of celebration and
They
going
always
into.
lit big bonfires on every celebration.
They love
like
their
big
bonfires.
You big bonfires on the summer solstice and dance around the fires in the spring and summer. Yeah.
I think
Bonfires are cool.
I think we're
love
due for a
fires.
big bonfire here soon. I think Valentine's is coming up. We'll find a place to light a big bonfire and invite everybody.
Ooh, we could do that for our February get together.
We'll just start celebrating the pagan holidays and lighting bonfires.
Ooh, and then we can burn effigies on them.
Yes.
That's what we did in
Looking
high
at-
school. We would do a big bonfire, and we would burn, like if we were
Playing Spanish Fork?
Playing Spanish Fork, we'd burn Dons.
Well, I don't want to be burned.
You gonna burn Dawn? What?
The Spanish Fork Dons. That was their.
That was their mascot.
That was their
the
mascot, the
Spanish
Spanish Don.
Dons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not
we-
just some dude named Don.
Oh, well, then you're safe.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. We got you.
As I said that,
Dan
I
wants to be burning Dons.
thought, well, it's been a rough week.
Well, so we're going to find your ex-husband, too?
Yeah, we can do that
If
too.
we're burning
I've got-
dawns, you have to have more than one.
We can do multiple dawns. I know a bunch of dawns. I know a lot of dawns.
She knows more dawns than
Because I got to burn them. I got to have a whole bunch of them.
So you get a couple together, and when you introduce them, you could be like, "This is dawn, da dawn, dawn, dawn."
I could do that. Okay.
All right.
So I'm going to go away from the holidays for just a little bit.
Oh, that's fine.
One of the last things that I kind of found on paganism was right at kind of the end of my research. There's this picture, and if I can, I'll get it up for you. You can probably just look it up. But it represented circles and how kind of everything worked together. And so I'll try to explain this the best I can. So the biggest circle was paganism, and it said. The definition that was on there at the time said modern religion's movement of paths influenced by historical paganism. So basically just, the modern paganism. And then within that big circle was a Wiccan circle. And it said Wiccan, it's a modern pagan religion blending European folk traditions with 19th and 20th century occultism. So what this means is if you're Wiccan, you're pagan, but if you're pagan, you're not necessarily Wiccan. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So, kind of like if you're Catholic, you're Christian, but if you're Christian, you're not necessarily Catholic. So, then had a third circle, and the third circle was witchcraft. And the witchcraft, kind of about a fourth of the circle touched into paganism, kind of went into Wiccan a little bit, but most of the circle, about 3/4 of the circle, was outside of paganism. And it said non-religious practice of the manifestations of a particular intent from the interconnectedness, which I think is a made-up word, of the world. So if you practice witchcraft, you're a little bit pagan, a little bit Wiccan, but mostly not. And just to see how all of those interconnected and overlapped and how you were some and parts, I found very interesting. So, I don't know, to me, if I were to sum all this up as how I understand it, the pagan religion is just how you want to do it. And, you take your own path. You take, from the nature and from your own spiritual experiences, however you define that, and you make this religion your own. And, there are some people that may be more attracted, for whatever reason, to the male gods of whichever, and I'm going to use mythology just for the sake of, so that everyone knows what I'm talking about. But some might go more towards the male gods as their head gods, their head deities. Some might go more towards the female deity, whatever speaks to them. Some might say, I kind of, have, the feels and get what I need, having more of a balance, male and female, doing what they need. So I found it very interesting. It's a very fluid, very harmonious religion, and not an evil devil worshipping, as some people may say when they say you're so pagan.
Yeah,
That's so pagan.
And it's not dogmatic as far as, here are the prescribed rules and rites and movements through. Now, there may be rites and different things in different aspects of some of the different sects and some of the different belief systems, but it's I don't know if I'd say less rigid or less dogmatic than some of the Christian beliefs, but
It's very fluid. That's what I like.
it's more fluid and more choose your own path and work through your own things. I mean, one of the main things is the pagans, they don't look at Jesus as their personal savior. That's not part of the religion or part of paganism. And the whole Abrahamic kind of traditions aren't I don't want to say they're not excluded, because love is love, and truth is truth, and so they're not mutually exclusive one from another, but they don't practice, or they don't espouse some of the Christian beliefs and scriptures as far as being
Real structured.
their structure.
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, if you look at it, a lot of the mainstream religions, the way that they do things throughout the year, they're in a way sort of practicing paganism themselves. I mean, they may only believe in one God, but all of our holidays that we celebrate, again, all came from had pagan roots. So, in a way, if you look at it, and this is just my opinion, again, a lot of these mainstream religions are still sort of practicing paganism.
Yeah, they just don't realize it.
Well, and a lot of them have brought paganism traditions in to the religion. Now, I do have to laugh. As I was doing some research, and Raven was doing some research, there was one pagan site that said the 4th of July is a pagan holiday. And I thought, no. I mean, to kind of say that all of the holidays came from paganism and the pagan traditions is not necessarily accurate.
But a lot of them did.
A lot of them did, but to say that they all did. Now, I see an overlap between the 4th of July. Here's a really big summer holiday where everybody gets together and you shoot off fireworks and you celebrate the independence of America from Great Britain. And I can see where people look at that and say, oh, that's similar, a summer holiday, a summer festival where you get together and, worship fire and do the... I mean, I see similarities there, but to say Independence Day was derived from a pagan holiday, no, it wasn't. But there are parallels there.
So yeah, it's just kind of the way things are nowadays. Like you were saying with the 4th of July, that's an American holiday. That's not something you practice anywhere else in the world,
Yeah, they especially don't practice that in England, just in case you wonder.
England's not lighting off fireworks on the 4th of July. I mean, technically the holiday's called Independence Day. It's not even, it just happens to be on the 4th of July. That's why we call it that. I guess it's more catchy than Independence Day. But most of these religions, or not religions, holidays that we practice is practiced throughout the world in several countries, not just here in America. I mean, like Christmas and technically Canada's Thanksgiving sometime in October, but like Halloween and the New Year and all that, it's all from paganism. And I mean, there was the period with the Crusades where it was just kind of like you're going around and everybody's just like, join our religion or die. And I think they kind of came up with a better way. It's like, all right, here's what we'll do. You guys like to celebrate this. We're going to find a way to kind of work it into our religion, and we'll find the best of both worlds. And so if you join us, you can still do your stuff, but this is how it's done now.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, we'll try to ease you in, by accepting,
and replacing their pagan gods with Christian gods and or saints, and different areas of bringing those kinds of things in there, and and celebrating All Saints Days and different things that were brought over from a number of different pagan traditions.
Right. I mean, for example, the Christmas where they winter solstice, it was called Yule. And, Christmas, what do we say? We've got the Yule log. And, I mean, Yule is a word that I don't know that, at least I don't use it a whole lot. But if someone were to say to me Yule, I think Christmas.
Well, they had Yuletide greetings.
Yes.
Christmas trees. A Christmas tree is a very Nordic, pagan, evergreen, life affirming. It stays green all winter long. It lives all winter long, and that's become, a symbol of a major symbol of Christmas. And that started as a pagan tradition.
Anyway, I found it very interesting. I thought it was. I'm not going to be converting to paganism, but I found it very interesting.
Well, and there's talking about like replacing things with like saints and whatnot. I remember reading somewhere there was, I think it was in Norse mythology, there was like a well or something that was dedicated to Freya, and in order to like kind of convert that over to Christianity, it now became a Virgin Mary thing. But they still let them like kind of worship that thing, so to speak. But now it's had to do with the Virgin Mary and not Freya anymore. So there's just a lot of things. I mean, there's this awesome website that I found. It's called pathos.com. It's patheos.com. And it has a ton of information on paganism, but it also has a ton of information on other religions as well. So if you have some time to kill and you're looking for a good read, I'd suggest that website. There's so much more information on that website, than what we're covering here in the show, just because we have, very limited time to actually sit and talk to you guys about this.
Right. And then, usually when I do research on different things, because as much as I would like to think I know everything, I really don't. We like to sit down and just throw up some YouTube videos and just watch some videos. And, guys know how YouTube works. There's some that are fabulous and really speak to you and some that are really lame. But we ran across a handful of, just short little videos that explained it that were really fabulous. So if this is something that interests you.
And a couple that were pretty lame.
Some that were really, really lame. It's like, oh, these guys are crazy sauce. But I think most of them were really good.
Yeah, they were.
So if this is something that interests you and you want to find out more about it, or it's something you would like to get into yourself, absolutely do your research and find what works for you, because paganism would be great for that. Whatever works for you is what you can do.
And I think one of the big takeaways from this is the idea that if someone is pagan, that doesn't mean that they're devil worshippers. Okay, that doesn't mean that they're anti-love or evil or anything else. We've got a number of really good friends that are pagan. They're part of our family. We love them and they love us, and it's a great association. You don't have to be afraid of pagans as being evil. I mean, that was part of the Christianity church and things, was to demonize the pagans, literally, to try to make it so that it was bad, so that the Christianity could expand, and the Christian principles and the Christian beliefs, I'm not getting the right word, but doctrine could be more fully implemented, and to do that, it kind of goes back to like what happened with the women that were knowledgeable in Salem with the witches. They decried them as witches. It's kind of the same thing with the pagan religions. They were deified, they were demonized.
Well, and with witchcraft, like you said, with the witch trials that happened, just not here in America in Salem. I mean, it was throughout Europe throughout the 1700s, and
there's whole inquisitions by the church.
Witchcraft was demonized, and you look at it now, where, like I said, I think it was like the 50s when Wicca was formed. It kind of brought it back to people and shown them that, witchcraft isn't necessarily a bad thing. You can still practice a form of magic, and you can use it for good. It doesn't. Well, it's not necessarily bad, like they believed, and they're not going to go throw you on a stake and burn you. But the thing with paganism is a lot of people aren't very open about being a pagan for that reason, that it's been demonized. It's like, oh, you're a bad person if you're pagan. So a lot of people that. Some people will go out and they'll practice in public, and they'll make people aware of the fact that they do practice paganism. But a lot of people just kind of keep it to themselves and their close friends and family, just because they don't want to deal with that misunderstanding that people have about being pagan.
Right. In fact, the one close friends that we have, I didn't know they were pagan for a couple of years, and then, well, maybe not quite that long, maybe about a year, and then he mentioned that he practiced Wiccan and was pagan, and I was like, I don't think that I ever thought that pagans were evil. I don't know what I expected, but I was like, I never knew. They're just very mainstream, very normal. It's not weird at all.
Well, I think that's one of the nice things about paganism, or people that are pagan. They don't judge people the way that so-called super religious people would. They do you do you, and they'll do them. They want everyone to live harmoniously with the earth and with nature, and they want the best for everybody. Where I've seen people that are just like, if you don't practice my religion, or you're going to go to hell if you don't do things the way my religion does it, and it's just not how it should be, in my opinion.
Right. So I'm a very strong believer in you have your free agency, and you do what feels good to you, and you do your research, and you look at all the religions and you pick what speaks to you, and you know what, person A may be right, person B may be right, who knows who's right, that's up to you. And I believe that there's going to be consequences for actions. You have good consequences, you have bad consequences. I don't believe I'm the judge of those consequences. And if you feel good, and if you believe, for example, I believe that someday I'm going to have to account for everything I've done in my life. And I feel like if I have consequences, I'll have consequences, but I'm doing what I feel is right. And yeah, I think that others can do what they feel is right. So
Okay.
there we go. Sorry, went off on a little rant there.
No, that's fine. I think we've covered quite a bit. Is there anything else that we would like to add as far as paganism goes?
I think I've covered everything as best as I understand it.
I know we haven't touched on everything. We haven't covered the full spectrum of paganism because there's just so much to it.
There's a lot.
And there's not enough that we can, or there's too much to cover here. But having said that, it's one of those things that I've started looking into myself, just because of the things I've learned and as I grow and develop my gifts. To me, it makes more sense. Just things that I've witnessed personally through like hypnosis sessions I've been through and guided meditations I've been through. To me, it just makes more sense. But I still I'm on the balance of like LDS and paganism, to be honest with you. Like there's things about each that I kind of like, and I'm still researching myself which one I want to do, but it's not for everybody, I guess. And I mean, you got to do what is best for you, what your heart feels is the right thing for you to do. Don't go out and do something just because it's somebody else said, hey, this is what I do, so you should do it too. That's just, you got to put in the time, put in the effort to research and study whatever religion you choose to be, and go with one that makes the most sense and feels right to you.
Amen.
You've been listening to the Supernatural Hour at AdvancedParanormal.com. The Supernatural Hour is part of the Radio Ronin network found at RadioRonin.com. Copyright 2021 by Advanced Paranormal Services.